That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a fucking toad, dude.
Yeah. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
Gosh, looking at those photos from
They're
our
old.
intro, they are some old photos.
Yeah.
We
Update.
really need to make a new intro video.
Yeah, we need to update the intro video.
I'm like, first of all, I'm 35 pounds heavier, and I got this handlebar mustache, so that has to be included into the intro. So, folks, if you're watching, let us know what kind of pictures and content. I do want to keep your dad talking though. I think that's really cool.
We gotta keep that.
We beeped it out for viewer content or for discretion and stuff. But welcome back to the OneCast. We have an awesome show lined up for you guys today. But before we bring our special guests on, we want to talk about those who support us the most, and that's OneCastFishing.com. Head on over to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word at checkout. Get your hands on those snagless jigs, weedless neds, soft plastics, merchandise, those long neck hooks, and everything else that Ben graciously has to offer you. Catch more fish, lose less tackle. Then while you're online, head on over to CarolinaWatersNC.com. Use the code TheOneCast, all one word. Ben and Peter rocking their hats, which they have a huge variety of hats. They got all that UPF gear that keeps you protected from those UV rays, to include the gloves, the buffs, the shirts, and all that good garb that you're going to need, especially down here in North Carolina where it's like 876,000 degrees maximum UV out right now. Yep. So head on over. Get your hands on those. People, they need to keep their eyes protected.
You need to use the link in the comments to take you to Hobie Eyewear, grab you some of the floating frames and new hull floats, which are made out of 100% upcycled Hobie kayak plastic. Grab you the frames. Make sure you get those sight masters to help you perform better in low light conditions, cloudy days. Definitely a difference maker in those early sight fishing tournaments. But all the lenses are great. But I definitely highly recommend you get a pair of those, if only for those conditions. And then where do they need to go, Ben?
So before your next fishing trip, go on your iPhone or your Droid or whatever you have, your Samsung, whatever they are now, and download the Deep Dive app. We've been talking about the Deep Dive app for a while. Excellent tool to help you put more fish in the boat by identifying locations and what baits to use. Of course, we've talked about it keeps you up to date on the water flow, the water levels, wind effects. But I just pulled it up here on my phone because if I was out on Jordan Lake right now, and not recording this podcast, I looked up what are the best areas I should go. They're all the spots I would hit first.
Yep.
So obviously I know that lake. I kind of know where they're at in the summertime or high percentage spots. So it just gives me confidence that if I went to a new lake, that they would be identifying some spots. And I use that app to be able to, whittle down the areas I should focus on. So before your next fishing trip, we all want information. We all want to know the places to go. Download the Deep Dive app and help eliminate some of those frustrations.
That's right.
Yeah, and last but certainly not least, make sure you, hit up our friend Uncle Terry.
Make sure you buy a house.
Say what's up. But if you're looking to move to Central North Carolina, buy a house property, if you're already down here, whatever it may be, make sure you get with our good buddy Terry Carpenter, licensed NC Realtor with Howard, Perry, and Walson. Coldwell Banker. Yeah, I was almost all the way through it for the first time without having to read it. It's only been a year. But yeah, make sure you hit up Uncle Terry. He's going to do all the work so you don't have to. He's going to make sure he finds that home of your dreams, whatever that may be. You're going to give him a list of the 10 things you want, and he's going to find the house you want. And Adam will be your wives, and yours will be a garage to fit the boat. And he will find it, I promise you. So make sure you hit up Terry Carpenter, licensed NC Realtor here in Central North Carolina. Anything else we need to quickly? Shaw Grigsby retiring, an absolute legend, friend of the show. We've had him on. Had a great last Derby. Finished, I think, in the top 10. I don't know where he ended up, but he went out like third on the final days. So pretty bittersweet to see that the best stash in fishing.
Oh,
the best stash in fishing.
Hal Abshire, you heard that?
Retire from competitive fishing and step away from that. So
where's he moving to? Is he moving on to professional gator hunting?
He might be. Yeah.
If y'all don't know Shaw Grigsby,
he's going back to his roots. He's going to start riding motocross again.
He's going to start racing motorcycles again.
Old man's league. No country for old men.
We'll have to get him on the show to talk about it.
Yeah.
But if you haven't listened, go back and listen to Shaw. We got his early coming up story from racing motorcycles to competitive bass fishing. So definite friend. I think an open just wrapped up. I didn't really follow that one too close.
I'm bringing it up right now.
Championship is about to kick off on Murray, I think
it's Clark's Hill.
Maybe Clark's Hill. I don't know. There's like 9,472 high school boats fishing that. So really not anything special. Not to take anything away from you kids that are fishing it, but unfortunately, I feel like they have oversaturated that high school national.
It's pretty thick, man. So it's 900 anglers.
Good luck to whoever's fishing it, but I hope they tighten up a little bit. Anything?
Yeah, and the open, as you just mentioned, because I think we mentioned it on Friday, but it was still going on. But Dylan Fallardo?
Yeah, I don't know.
Fallardo. Dylan Fallardo. I don't know.
He ran away with it, 62-13. So congratulations, second place, Lucas Lindsay, 53rd, and I'm just. The first big name I see is Trey Swindle as 11th. So a little bit of a redemption for him after the last time.
I was on Potomac, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What else? Chris Johnston, he wrapped up, took an invitational win up there. Banks Shaw got the AOI and ROI for the invitationals. So that he's definitely going to be going to the BPT.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's
about it.
Yeah. NPFL is getting ready to crack off here shortly. I think their last event is at Logan Martin. And funny enough, we have one of their awesome anglers that's getting ready to join us here. And that is going to be Buck Mallory. Pete, you want to bring Buck on?
Let's do it.
Let's bring him on. Buck
What's
Mallory.
up, guys? How we doing?
Good. How you doing, man? How'd you like the intro? Was it good enough?
Yeah, you guys hype it up good, man. It's good. I almost had butterflies here. I'm sitting in my own spare bedroom trying to keep it quiet because I got two little kids, and I'm like, lock the door for a minute, give me an hour. But yeah, it's good.
No, man, we appreciate you all the way from Mattawan, Michigan, which I'm pretty familiar with, joining us here on this fine Wednesday afternoon. And the audience has heard a lot from NPFL anglers, but you go back a few years on the NPFL. But before that, let's let the audience get to know who you are, where you grew up, and how you cut your teeth in this industry.
Man, that's a good story. It's I probably started about like anybody else did with this. I mean, my family fish, I fished team tournaments and stuff with my dad when I was a kid, but I grew up in Southwest Michigan. I excuse me, I left for a couple of years to play college football in the west side of the UP of Michigan, but I've never lived outside of Michigan. But I cut my teeth fishing like team tournaments and stuff around here, worked my way through the BFLs, and that the reason that I did that was, this state, we don't get a lot of opens really. And the only way to get out of here without having $1 million in your back pocket is to kind of fish the BFL stuff, and that was always on Lake St. Clair and the Detroit River. And where I'm from, we got a lot of grass and we got a lot of largemouth, and to go I had to be self-taught technically over there to smallmouth fish. It went pretty good. I kind of miss being over there as much as I used to. I mean, I won a BFL over there as a boater, and the same year that I won that one, I did well in the Toyotas as well in 2020, and I had an invitation to fish. It was the pro circuit that year, or for 21, and I got invited to fish the NPFL. And I, let's call it, took a gamble and signed up to fish the NPFL instead of the pro circuit, even though MLF was the bigger name. But I thought that, the crew over there felt like they had a good home feel and they were really going to work hard for what they were going to do. And, I took a chance at it and I won one the first year. So it's been a pretty cool ride. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of cool people and caught some really big fish.
Somebody might have called him because I don't think he dropped. Sometimes when people call, we get that. So yeah, we'll be right back with Buck Mallory while we work through some technical difficulties.
Guess we'll have to have an editor this time.
I forgot he won one the first year.
Yeah.
Winnebago.
I feel bad now.
Winnebago, I think.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a northern event, but I definitely can.
Lake Winnebago.
I can definitely.
There we go.
Did somebody call you?
Yeah, somebody called me.
I knew when it was a black screen, you didn't disconnect. I was like, yeah, somebody called him. It happens from time to time.
Yeah, it's pretty, like, I own a business, so that doesn't help people call all the time, but they're rude at 7 o'clock at night. Come on.
Well, yeah, man, you were just saying you were just wrapping up on the tournaments and stuff down there, and winning a BFL and then getting invited to the NPFL, and taking a gamble over there. So, but before we dive into all the NPFL stuff, and maybe because I'm from there, you don't hear a lot of professional anglers coming out of the Kalamazoo, Michigan area. Obviously, Kevin Van Dam, Jonathan Van Dam, right? DNR,
the whole Van Dam family.
The whole Van Dam family.
Yep.
Can you talk to the audience a little bit about how Michigan fishing, both from the largemouth you talked about, like a lot of grass and stuff, and then obviously the east side. But what are some of the key things that Michigan has taught you, the fisheries that has translated into success for you?
To be honest with you, the best thing that I've learned, and it was because I fish here, and we have a vast variety of different ways to fish. The only thing that I'm missing here is like the big reservoirs, so we can have like current driven ledge fishing. We don't have that where I'm from at all. Everything's inland or like natural lakes, unless you're fishing the Great Lakes. But they're grassy usually, but there's always like hard bottom areas. You can kind of go do whatever you want to do. And I've learned that a bass is a bass is a bass. It don't matter if it's Mexico, Florida, or Michigan. And they do very, very similar things all across the country, no matter what's going on. You just got to understand what they're going to do for a time of year and how to build a pattern. And when you can do that, you can kind of take the things that you've learned anywhere and put them to work here or anywhere else too. I mean, I just fished a local tournament, and I actually played with you guys mentioned your intro there, the deep dive app. I fished this place a bunch in my life, but I haven't been there in over a year. And I was driving up with my partner, and I pulled up the deep dive app, and I was looking at like areas that maybe I didn't know that could have like hard bottom, because I felt like the time of year we are in Michigan, I can go shallow still and catch them if I can find hard bottom. And I actually had like 3 little areas that I'd never been. And I went through and I circled through that, and I actually jacked them because of that app. And, so just learning like fish nuances and stuff all across the country, almost always the same. They're going to do very similar things. It just depends on what you have for forage and whatever else. I mean, I know that like a lot of the things that I've learned around here, I used at Kerr Lake when I fished there in an open a few years ago. I have a lot of areas up here where I fish big points and stuff, and there's big points there, and I threw a backdraft around big points, and it worked, and I do that here. You know what I mean? So Michigan's a whole lot more diverse than what people think. It's very well known, obviously, for smallmouth fishing. A lot of people think that's just what we do, and honestly, I never caught over a 4-pound smallmouth until I was like 20 years old.
Yep.
But once I started going, and I went to the east side and learned St. Clair and Erie and some of Lake Huron, it was quick to learn, and it was cool to understand that they're a lot more like a pack hunter than what a largemouth is, unless you're just a big offshore guy, and I'm not. So for me, it was a learning experience there, but it was awesome. And I've taken what I've learned there, and I've used it on Lake Winnebago. I've used it on Green Bay, St. Lawrence River, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. I mean, you name it. And smallmouth bass or smallmouth bass or smallmouth bass.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really matter where you're at. They do a lot of the very similar things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a big – I don't think there's a huge misconception, but, the North is riddled with largemouth. And you guys know from, my last trip up there, which, Buck, I was talking to you when I was back in Kalamazoo – or Seth said that you were going to St. Clair. But, man, I'll tell you what, that's all I caught for 3 days was largemouth, chatterbait in the grass and stuff like that. In fact – it built a lot of my confidence using a chatterbait because it's a bait I don't use a lot, and Pete knows that very well. So I actually used Michigan as a good training ground because we have some fisheries in North Carolina with grass, but almost every fishery up north has grass. And I say north as in like Michigan, but I'm sure I know Wisconsin's the exact same way. I'm sure a lot of lakes in Pennsylvania are the same way. So, things like that matter And it does appear that a lot of the northern anglers that are on the national tours, they do really well in the South too, like Florida and stuff like that. Anywhere where there's grass. Of course, smallmouth are smallmouth. They're kind of a stupid fish, but
Well, I did want to ask about the smallmouth because we've asked other guys this before and we've talked about it because some people think there is a difference. Do the smallmouth act different on the Tennessee River, Lake the Ozarks, Table Rock compared to all the northern smallmouth where they're all goby forage?
So yes and no. The little bit that I've caught them in the Tennessee River, I can't say I've actually went for them a bunch. They like current, and I've found it up north that they like current too. And they're easily predictable around current breaks, and they're very aggressive. But I feel like being up here, the water's cleaner, so they're just a lot more likely to chase your stuff down. Like I've seen it before on live scope where they'll go from a long ways, or even sight fishing them, they'll go a long ways just to go get your stuff just because they can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally right. Because like on Bull, I was going to say totally right because on Bull Shoals, when you do have those days where it's 30 feet visibility, like they'll come from 40 feet, 30, 40 feet on the bottom of up all the way up the bluff wall to hit a top water.
Yep. And that's nothing different than like going out to Hartwell or Clark Hill and throwing a big plug over the top of timber or, sunken cane piles and that. And spotted bass will do the same thing. When there's visibility, fish will chase. And I know a spotted bass is a lot like a smallmouth in that regard, where they're pack honey. They're visual hunters. They are aggressive fish, that is very similar with the smallmouth, at least to my experience. And, Table Rock, I've seen it before where that's really clear. And you can throw just a standard jerk bait, like they just dive 6 or 8 foot and you can whack them in 30 foot. They come up off the treetops and come and get it. You know what I mean?
I would love that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And it's just, they're a different breed compared to a largemouth for sure, but I've seen largemouth be pretty stupid and crazy at times. I mean,
yeah.
I remember when I was at Santee Cooper, I was like second place or whatever for the first couple of days of that tournament. And, to catch 31 pounds in 2 hours, just unreal. And I was just, chatterbaiting around hard spots. And I do that for smallmouth in the Detroit River. Chatterbait around hard spots. I mean, there was more current there than there is in Santee Cooper, but it was like second nature. I was looking at my 360 going, there's a hard spot, and fire over there and bam, you catch one.
So, God, we got right into fishing.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. I did want to rewind though, real quick. When you graduated high school, did you graduate from Mattawan?
No, I actually graduated from a little tiny school not very far from here called Decatur.
Oh yeah.
So Mattawan is probably like I don't even know, man, 400 graduating class, maybe a little bit bigger than that a year. And I graduated in a class of like 65, so we were big. But big corn-fed hillbillies, I guess, is what we were, and we played good football and that too. And it's a good time. It was nice growing up in a small town. I like that feel, and I've kind of kept with it. I mean, Mattawan's not big compared to like Grand Rapids or Muskegon or anything like that. So I like that feel. I like knowing my neighbors, and I like to know who's around. And I'm not gonna leave my $80,000 boat in my yard and nobody messes with it. So that's good.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, if you are from Michigan and you haven't been there in like 20 years, and you drive back to like places like Kalamazoo, Decatur, Three Rivers, Comstock, let's not use Comstock, but anyways, all those places, they haven't really changed at all, which is really cool. You go back and it's not like industrialized and there's not a lot of commercial developments and stuff going on. But after you're done with Decatur, did you move on to any of the universities there, or did you go straight into business?
So I went up and I stayed around the Northern Michigan University for 2 years, but I already knew what I was going to do overall. I went because I could play football there for a little bit. And, in between, I worked with my dad. My dad owned a construction business, and I was going to probably take that over, at least unless something major happened. And I didn't think I was going to the NFL. I was just going up there to hang out and have a good time. Mission accomplished there for sure. We can go into that a whole lot more deeper another day. But, you live, you learn, you grow up on it. And I mean, I had an opportunity to make good money at a young age, you know, in my early 20s, and I always fished when I was little, like with my uncle, my great uncle anyway, and my dad. And, you know, I wanted to get back into that. So I got a boat, and I want to say 2000, I graduated in '04. So it was like 2009. I got another boat and started doing some more local stuff. And I think I fished my first BFL like in 2014. And
Okay.
so from 2014 till now, it's kind of been nonstop. I really haven't taken too many breaks off of it. Fished opens, fished BFLs, Toyotas, and then got into the NPFL, and it's kind of been history from there.
Yeah, for Pete, maybe it's like this in Missouri and Arkansas too, but one of the things that I noticed about Michigan, and Buck, you can attest to this, you know, when you go to places like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, when there's a bass fishing tournament, it's like all like fiberglass and like top end like aluminum bass boats. When there's a bass fishing tournament in Michigan, and I witnessed this, bro, they'll be out there in any kind of boat. It could be like a rowboat with like a 9.9 on it, right? With a cooler with an aerator, you know.
Yep.
And I watched that happen on Gull Lake last week or so when I was there. Like, it doesn't matter. Like the northern anglers and maybe I don't. Is it like that a lot in Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Is it?
I would say not like there in Missouri. I mean, you got a few guys, but think of how many bass boat manufacturers have been through southern Missouri, northern Arkansas over the years. Like, guys may not have any, like they may have a 30-year-old, you know, hull or like a 20-year-old tracker or something like that. But like, may not be brand new fiberglass.
Yeah.
But most of them are running around on either some type of bass boat and sometimes you see the multi-species, you know, with the windshields and all, because there's some guys who like to troll for walleyes and stuff in the water. So.
Yeah, it was more rare to see a bass boat than it was to see anything else in a bass tournament.
I bet.
In Pennsylvania.
I bet.
A lot of multi-species, a lot of little John boats, and won a lot of money out of a 17-foot tracker.
Yeah, buddy.
Back in the day. So.
It's still like that up there, though, Buck, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, man. And that's how my first bass boat, I got it for my graduation from high school present. My dad bought me. So to reference it again, I graduated in '04. And my dad set the world on fire with it. Now I was grateful, so I'm talking crap because it's funny. But it was like a 1987 or 88 17-foot bass tracker, and it had like a 25 horsepower Mercury on it.
Yeah.
Zero electronics, and you know, 12-pound or 12-volt trolling motor with probably like 40 pounds of thrust or something. And you know, I kept that boat for a while, and I mean, eventually the wood rotted out of it or whatnot because it was already halfway there when I got it. But you know, from there, I upgraded and I had a 20-foot Skeeter, but it was an older Skeeter. It was like a 92, but it had a 200 horsepower motor, so I felt like I could compete a little bit better, at least to run around. But you're right, over here, there's a lot of little ponds, man. I mean, compared to what I fish on the road, Gull Lake, where you were just at, is one of the big ones, and it's not even a eighth of what we fish in the NPFL.
Of course, no, it's only 2,030 acres.
Yeah, that's what lake for
Wikipedia says.
Yeah, from where I'm from, that's a big lake, man. I mean, other than the Great Lakes, right? Now, that's a whole other animal, and that's great to go out and smallmouth fish there. But like on the west side of Michigan, unless it's spring or fall, you don't fish the Great Lakes for smallmouth.
No.
They're very pelagic. They come in the river systems like around Muskegon, St. Joe, South Haven, all these little harbor towns that have rivers attached to them. They'll pull in and they spawn in the river, and then they get right back out in the lake and they're gone. And nobody knows how. I've not met anybody that knows how to catch them in the summertime there. And you know, you go to Traverse City or up that direction, it's totally different. You go south by Chicago, totally different. You can get out on the reefs and stuff out there and catch them. I'm actually thinking about going down there this weekend, maybe just to go scope them up for a little bit. You know, that's deep still. Compared to what I like to fish, if I go down there by Chicago, I'll be fishing like in 40 foot. So that's deep for me. But you can still get on them. I mean, they're out there around rock and whatever. So as long as you can find structure, you can find fish.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be so fun.
It makes sense. I mean, I went up there and tried to find smallmouth in Gull Lake, and I couldn't catch them, man. Like I had to go down to St. Clair. And you know, smallmouth might be easy to catch, but they're definitely can be hard to find if you don't know what you're looking for and stuff like that. So, how was that for you growing up? Like, you said you self-taught some things, but like when it came to finding fish, you know, in the north and stuff, like how did you find fish? Did you have your father or grandfather, or was it just you out there?
So when I was just largemouth fishing and stuff, I fished with my dad and my great uncle. But like, so smallmouth stuff, that was pretty well self-taught. Like, I mean, I went out with a couple of people. I'm pretty tight with the Van Dams. I actually stood in Jonathan Van Dam's wedding, but him and I are good friends or whatever. And as much as he was willing to share, it's still like until you're out in the boat with him, it's totally different, right? And by the time him and I actually got out and fished together, I'd already fished the BFLs for a couple of years and had some decent success. And we went up like quite a few times to like Lake Charlevoix. There's some small little green duck. I don't know, a few other little pond lakes up north that in the springtime it's fun to go whack on them. I mean, you can get right quick. You can catch some 5 and 6 pounders and whatnot. And that's the stuff that like Kevin always filmed, catching them on jerk baits and stuff out, you know, when you'd see them on TV through like the Strike King protein journals and stuff like that. But so we fished a lot of that stuff together, and that's how I learned to like that I'm doing the right stuff a lot. Is like, Johnny, I'll call him up and I'm like, dude, I'm having great success doing this. You've done this longer than me. Does this make sense? And he's like, oh yeah, you're doing good. Keep it up, you know. And to have somebody that can reassure you, like, I mean, this is a little bit off in the weeds, but it was similar. I had a good day 1 at Eufaula, and then the wheels came off on day 2. The size just went away, and everything that was decent size wouldn't commit to my bait. And I literally wanted to have the biggest meltdown. I thought I was the worst fisherman in the world because I was getting bites and I just wouldn't get them to eat. And then everything that I tried it seemed backwards. Like I could swim a jig through and they would eat it, or they would hit it, but they wouldn't eat it. They'd take the tail. And I was like, okay, I'll slow down. I'll throw this. And I threw like a jerk bait around it. They wouldn't touch it. I'd pitch around it with a jig. They wouldn't touch it. But every time I'd swim the jig through there with like a white swim jig, they'd whack it, but they'd take the tails. And he was just laughing. He's like, yeah, it can be frustrating, can it? And I'm like, dude, I wanted to like snap every rod I had in the boat, you know? Like, how is this possible? I mean, I'm watching them eat it and I can't get a hook in them. And so, to have somebody that's a close friend like that to lean on a little bit when it gets tough is good, you know? But man, learning how to catch, back to our little veer there, learning how to catch smallmouth was tricky just because I really didn't have anybody that taught me how to do it at first. And the first 2 or 3 times I went to St. Clair, I was getting burned. That place is so big compared to what I'm used to. I mean, it's like 450 square miles. I remember launching my boat like at the 9-mile ramp, and I idled out of the no wake zone, and it opens up to like this mass area, and you can't see the other side. And I'm looking, and I'm like, man, this is my first time with a GPS. I don't even know what I'm doing here. What was I thinking? Maybe I bit off way more than I could chew. And you know, I didn't know, like, this was before I was, I guess, trying hard. You know, I didn't really do a whole lot of research on what the big bags were or whatever. And I got out and found some rock or whatever side scanning. And I was like, man, I'm catching 60, 70 fish a day. You know, I'm probably catching 17, 18 pounds. Yeah, we're doing it. And I weighed in that tournament. I think I weighed like 18.9. And I was like, yeah. And I took like 80th. And I was like, holy shit. These guys are good, man. Holy cow. What am I thinking here? You know, a couple of years later, I mean, you fast forward and I had like 26.5 for 5 and, you know, won the tournament. And, you know, things change in a hurry once you actually figure out what you're doing, you know.
Oh, man. I've never.
That's the tough thing on that lake particular is there are so many 3-pound fish, 3.5, 4-pound fish that it's the guys that find the 5-pound and the 6-pound that make the big. I mean, I've got pictures, you know, we grew up going to Michigan fishing St. Clair, and I've got pictures before anybody knew what Lake St. Clair was when I'm like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, holding these big 4 and 5-pound smallmouth and like catch them by the hundreds. And I wasn't even fishing. I was little. I just drag a tube behind the boat. My dad and my uncle would musky fish, and I'd, whoop, there's one. And I mean, pictures, and I'm like holding these fish as this little kid, and it's unbelievable. But and it shows like we thought we were doing something, and then the tournament started going. Then you're like, good God,
Yeah,
like there's some true freaking giants in that place.
dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I 100% agree with you on, like, I'm 40 years old. Yeah, I know I don't look it, but I went up to Lake St. Clair for my very first time a couple weeks ago, and it's overwhelming, man. Especially when there's like 3-foot waves. So not only is it a massive body of water compared to anything else in Michigan, outside of the Great Lakes themselves, but it's just overwhelming. And then you're like, where the hell do I start? Like, where do you, because there's barely any contours on the map, depending on your mapping product. You're out there. And so really, outside of some of the information that Pete gave me, I'm looking for where the boats are at. Right. And I know, like, I'm not fishing a tournament. I'm just like, hey, I need to go do some bent rod pattern around here and see where people, to see where people are fishing, because I have no idea where to start. So going out there and self-teaching, especially in a day and age when now, the technology is so much better compared to when you grew up fishing. I can only imagine how overwhelming that may be. So when you were having all your success going through the BFLs and in the pro circuit and stuff, and this is important for a lot of our younger listeners, you clearly had your career going on. Did you have a family going on at the same time?
Nope. So I was calculated on that, let's call it. I didn't know at first that I mean, up until just a few years ago, I didn't think I wanted to have kids. I live a busy lifestyle. I planned on fishing professionally. I wanted to do that. That was always my goal. And then running a business on top of that, and it's twice as busy. And then I figured in my head, I'm like, man, if I throw kids in this, I'll never be able to fish. And I made some changes in the business and stuff, so I'm not having to be as involved, so I can have kids and I can fish too. So it's tough still, though. Like, it's a juggling act. But yeah, you want to, I mean, there's nothing wrong if you can find a way to get sponsored or get help to get into it sooner than later, because when you're younger, it's easier on your body. Like the big rough boat rides. I mean, when I was at the St. Lawrence, I was doing, this is going to blow people's minds that actually drive a boat around. I was doing like 245-mile loops a day to try to win that tournament. And I was doing high risk, high reward. I knew that if I went down there and I fished clean and make it back on time, I could have a shot at winning. And now you think about that, if you're 60 years old and it's rough, you're beat up. I mean, I tell you, I hit a barge wave wrong, and I was like, I'm still struggling with like a knot in my back that I can't get rid of. And I'm 39 years old. And so, like, nothing wrong with getting to it earlier, but like, also don't get discouraged if it takes you a little while to get the wheels under the bus and actually do it. I didn't fish my first pro tournament until I was, let's call it BFL Pro. I was like 24 when I fished my first one. And, there was the handful of younger guys that maybe had a family member that got them into it or had the money to push their way through a little bit sooner than that. But like, you'll realize that you're not going to be the only one that's going to be taking a little bit of time to get there. And you just got to take everything you can in stride and stay focused on your goals.
No, 100%, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a number of pro anglers on the show that, talk about like making sure that you understand how to approach people when you're asking them to invest in you, that you understand how to get your finances squared away and stuff like that. Some guys, they're dealt a royal flush and they hit it off the first year and it's golden, right? But then, just like you said, like there's no objective like measure that you're going to make unless you just win everything and qualify for everything. It's really hard to measure how success is going to look. So I think, for the younger guys out there, like, you see a lot of business owners in the industry, a lot in the NPFL too, which can be self-funded. But then you see a lot of guys take a mixed method approach to it, where they're self-funding, but they're also getting a lot of sponsorship stuff. So is that what you did when you decided to accept an invitation to the NPFL? Did you do it both ways, or are you self-funding?
So the first year, I actually, like, it's funny. The first year was my best year that I've ever had with sponsorships. And it's kind of dwindled its way down since then. And I would think that, you know, the method of the madness is the more you get around people, the more you show that you can do it, you know, the more likely you are to get your sponsors. And for whatever reason, I haven't taken off on that end of it. Maybe I'm just too busy with my own life and I don't take the time to hunt it down too. Like, that's part of it. I've never been to ICAST. I actually had people like subcontracting me out at ICAST, let's call it, because they were giving out my media kit for me because I couldn't make it. I had work to do. And you know, so there was a few people doing that this year, and that's the first time that's even happened. And a lot of the big business deals do happen within the industry at ICAST.
Yep.
So that's a big player. But yeah, I've been mostly self-funded the entire time. I've had, I want to say, like, the first year probably was like close to 60 to 70% funding out of, you know, sponsorship stuff. And then since then it's been 30% or so, and the rest of it comes out of my business. So if I didn't have my business, I'd be up a creek without a paddle. Now, maybe if I didn't have my business and I had more time, I would have focused on getting the sponsor stuff early versus making the money to make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Okay. It's a catch-22. So like the big thing right now for me, and I don't want to come off like my business does great, because I mean we survived, but like you know, everybody wants to sponsor the influencer, like the guy that's got 30,000 followers on every type of social media platform, because they get the clicks and they get the views and it gets their product out there. And I get that, but like, for me to take the amount of time that it takes to get, let's even call it 20,000 followers, because I don't have it, on social media, I could probably make a couple $100,000 in my business versus 10 or 15,000 from company X, Y, or Z, because I'm an influencer now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's tough for me to take that time for no payback or little.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, there were some pioneers that sort of changed the landscape of fishing and that sponsorship money, and they got in early and blew up. Guys like Milliken and who were the dudes that went to Guggen? John, whatever that kid's name is. I don't really watch a lot of YouTube fishermen. John B.
You had Lake Fork
guy. Like, yeah, there was a few that got in super early. They were already somewhat established, and then when you had the huge COVID blitz and consumption was up and all that, they were already there with a pretty big base. Platforms pushed them. And that's sort of when you saw a big shift was, 2021 of those sponsorship dollars going to social media influencers versus professional. And I'm going to say professional because, like, do you call a BFL professional? I do. I think if you fish for money and it's part of your living, it is. Other people are going to argue, but that money sort of shifted from them. And then the market became oversaturated because a lot of other people started to blow up. They wanted their little piece of the pie. The pie got smaller for everybody else, and it made it a lot harder. So for you positioned yourself better to survive that without having to have the huge follower. Now I think the struggle is the guys that are coming up that are not doing that are young, are trying to get a piece of the pie. And if they don't, the pie is pretty small.
Mm-hmm. It is.
But, and Buck, you can confirm, maybe I have noticed a bit of a pushback with some non-endemics coming in and putting money back into it a little bit, especially with the younger kids coming up, the scopers everybody wants to argue about, but we've got a lot of youth movement in professional fishing. There's some really good anglers coming up. Have you seen that a little bit more where some of those non-endemics seem to be a little bit more willing to have a conversation?
Yeah. And that's where literally anybody that's been willing to give me money has been a non-endemic ever since I started. Like, I get a deal, like we call it, everybody calls everything a deal, right? I get a deal with Power Pole, so I don't have to pay full price, which is great because they're $6,000 for a pair of them with brackets, right? You get a deal on your electronics, so you don't pay full price for that stuff and whatever. But like, and I had I was pretty, happy with my contract that I kept for a few years with ARC, because I could get, rods, reels, and tungsten weights and jigs. I throw a lot of jigs. And I had an allowance, which was great. It made it so I didn't have to worry about going to the store or getting on Tackle Warehouse and, blowing all my money on that. So that was great. But like, I mean, right now, my biggest cash sponsor is is St. Julian Winery. They're local to me, and they're a liquor company. I mean, they make wine and different types of spirits. You know, they have all sorts of stuff. It's a great variety. And because they're local to me, I've fished with and against the owner, and he likes to bass fish, and he's my age-ish, and you know, it was a good meeting there, and you know, if everything goes well, we'll keep it going on there too. Because I mean, I like to support them, and you know, I'm sure that Zach or Seth will turn into this, and I'm having some of their black and blueberry whiskey as we speak. And I mean, they're jonesing for it. I mean, you know, just as well as I do, you had to go get a bottle for
Yeah,
Zach.
Trey got me a bottle.
That's what you were talking about last week.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
it's good.
Saint
Yeah.
Julian.
Check out St. Julian.
Yeah,
folks.
so and maybe they'll want to invest in the show too. Since
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, little personal history here. My dad's girlfriend worked for St. Julian Winery for like 20 years, man. And
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and when I went there to pick that whiskey up, it was the first time I'd been in there since I was a child, and and it's amazing, man. They sell great product. You guys can find a lot of their wine all over the country for sure.
Yep.
But their whiskey's a little bit harder to get, for sure. So
I'm
but that
trying.
black and go ahead.
Sorry, I'm trying right now. Now Seth said that he knows a guy, and I'm not
Sure
putting
he
any names
doesn't.
out there because I don't know the guys yet. But he knows the guy that's like he works for, or he's part of a big beer and spirit distribution area in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I brought that to the owner's name's Apollo. I said, Apollo, man, I got a connection for you. I'm going to make this happen. Do you have any distribution in North Carolina at all? And he said, no, I don't, but absolutely make that happen because I'd love to be there. So
Okay.
Yeah, I would
now
love
you
to be
get
able
in
to just go
Seth's
buy
ear
it.
now. You get in Seth's ears now and get me that phone number. And before you know it, you'll be able to get that black and blueberry in your guys' town.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we're going to start charging Seth for all of these connections that we're making. But if we can benefit from it too, that's awesome. No, I mean it's important that Pete asked you that question about like the non-endemic exposure coming back into the industry, because I think so many of the young guys and gals that are trying to get in, they're headhunting for all these pro staff deals and stuff like that. And like you said, with electronics companies and other manufacturers within the industry, it's few far in between that you're going to get a solid sponsorship deal with them. They pretty much have their teams picked out every year, and based on their revenue streams, they'll add and they'll take away every single year. It's not as consistent as a lot of guys think. So really running down the private sector outside of the fishing industry, in my opinion, is the way to go. I mean, you hear us talk about Terry Carpenter Real Estate, right? And you hear us talk about other partners that are in the industry, but you got to have a variety in your portfolio.
That's the best way to do it. Honestly, I think the best way to do it is like you're doing, Buck, and a lot of guys in NPFL is you start your own business, and as you're building that up, you're fishing locally, BFL, getting experience, and you get to the position where you're your own boss. You set your own schedule. So you can go fish these tournaments.
Yep.
And more importantly, when you run your own business, and if you are self-funding, there's some things you can do that offset the costs that you're paying for
sure
sponsorship, right?
For sure.
So like, if you're giving yourself to fish from a business for it's a marketing expense and all this, right? So there's huge benefits if you can start your own business and do that and fish locally and hone your skill and then jump into it, because you're gonna grind when you work on your business. He got
another phone call again.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's okay. We can just talk amongst ourselves until he jumps back on here.
Well, yeah, it's fine. I mean, we're talking about having your own business.
I'm going to restart it. Yeah, talk about having your own business, and there it was.
And phone call.
6 or 7:15 on a Wednesday.
So you're going to grind and you're going to work, and it's going to be hard. And but you do that for a few years. Hopefully, you can set yourself up, and you're able to go out and chase those dreams in a much better position.
Yes.
That one, you got a fallback plan. You already got something going. It just works out better for a lot of guys that way.
What I wanted to ask you about it. Ben just brought up a fallback plan. You obviously have one. It's your primary plan. Well, I don't know if it's your primary plan, but you got your business. How many guys in the industry do you see that have zero plan, man? If there's a catastrophic failure in their national touring?
Man, there's a lot of them, and it's you see me scratching my head. I mean, I could give you a list, and it's tough because like everybody's hunting down the metaphorical golden nugget. You know what I mean? And we all think that if we win a national level tournament, the money's coming, or if you win a Bassmasters Classic, the money's coming. And I think the Bassmasters Classic probably it is that way or whatnot. But like, till you go there and you win it, there's not a golden nugget, and it's pretty hard to just fish on the what ifs. I mean, if you can set yourself up for it and you keep it moving, cut enough checks, you can survive, but you're not getting ahead. I mean, you like for the NPFL, and I'm thinking a little bit here, but like, so we have 100 boats roughly left. You know, there was, I don't know, 19 or 20 guys that bailed out because they couldn't afford it. And that affects everybody else's paycheck as it goes, because the less people that are in it, the less money there is to put towards the earnings. And but like if you're not cutting the top, unless you're living, like if you're sleeping in a truck or a camper or something like that, like a truck bed camper, you know, the cost of it, of the travel alone makes it so if you're making like the last check, the $5,000 check, you're so far backwards it doesn't even come close to making even.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know, you got $5,200 just for an entry fee. So if you make a $7,000 check, your travel's covered with your entry fee, but maybe your gas or your tackle or whatever you need to do with your boat might not be. And if you have a breakdown and you need to repair something, you better have a new enough boat that's got warranty or you're screwed there too. And yeah, you got to have a little bit of a nest egg or maybe some high limit credit cards that you don't really use much if you don't need to. So like stuff like that goes a long ways, you know, but like, yeah, I've seen it enough. There's guys that survive it too. I mean, there's guys that I've watched them from the first year of the NPFL that have figured out a way to make it work. And now they've gotten other, you know, sponsors and whatnot that have helped. But like when they started off, they were just like a wing and a prayer. And I guess if that's the mindset that you have and this is your only option and you have to make it work, that might be more of a driving factor to make you, make you have to fish right. You know, you really know that like your next meal is coming if you cut a check or not. And that's probably a little scary, but like at the same time, maybe makes you fish a little more focused or whatnot, you know?
So oh, go ahead.
Just a quick disclaimer for the kids listening: do not do the high limit credit card deal.
Yeah, probably not.
Do not recommend that 23% interest rate. No,
that's a fallback plan.
Big
that's like like if you broke your truck and you're driving and you needed new tires and you don't have $1,500 in the bank to throw into it because you spent it on your dang entry fee. But you got to get back somewhere. Throw it on a credit card, sure, but like make sure you can pay it back off. Yes,
we talked to plenty of guys that have been doing this for a long time. The John Cruz and folks that have seen guys bankrupt, sell everything multiple times, credit card debt through the years, and have to file for bankruptcy, and they disappear for a few years, and then they get a little bit of credit back, and they're back in a new boat, chasing it again, and that's just. I mean, I give those dudes, I guess, credit for chasing the dream, but at the same time, that's not really any quality of life when you're constantly stressed over.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Having to cash a check to survive. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation. You set up well. You kind of started off saying you picked the NPFL over what's now the Tag Warehouse Invitationals. I think it was a pro series back then. Because of the feel, and we agree with the feel. I don't know if you ever had fished any FLW, but being around that, it's a very similar family type feel. And I know, so you fished the first year, you won one, which was Winnebago, right?
Winnebago.
Yep,
yeah,
Winnebago.
And
that was like fishing at home, is what that was.
Yeah, I would say that was pretty similar to what you were in your comfort zone. And then you took a year off, correct? I think you went and fished did you go fish the EQs when they went to the 9?
Yep. So I did that. That was after year 2. So I fished year 1, year 2 in the NPFL. And then I went So it's 21 and 22 NPFL. 23 was the EQs.
That's right.
And then 24 and 25 have been back in the NPFL.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, because I actually saw you on Car Lake. I was doing a media ride along with Destin DeMarion up there, and saw you up there running around in some areas that he was checking during one of the days of practice.
Can I just
Tell
say,
Dustin to leave my stuff alone.
Stay on a grassy
Get off
creek.
his juice, Destin.
it's been since 2023 that the EQ started. Like, time's flying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
23 was
It
when they
is.
did the
Time is
9.
flying.
Yeah.
The first year, then all 9. Then they did that for 2 years, and then this year they went to the 4 and.
Yeah.
I mean, when you
50.
think about it, like, it's only 2 years, like 2025, but it's like the 3rd season now. So
I mean,
No, I mean it is. I remember the inaugural season of the NPFL. As
Yeah.
Buck doesn't number. Yeah,
that seems that's
it's crazy
So-
where we're at.
what was the thought process on that, Buck? Like, was it trying to get to the Classic? Was it trying to get to the Elite Series? Like, what was it? What did you enjoy about it? And then what brought you back to the NPFL?
So the thought process was there was a little bit of a, I don't want to bash anybody, but there was like some miscommunications that went on with the NPFL. There was like a little bit of a turmoil that went on.
Yep.
And like business wise. And there was like, I wasn't just an anomaly. I think there was like 50 or 60 guys that left.
Yep.
And that was their year that I think they only had like 57 boats all year long or something. But I went to the elite qualifiers there because I wanted to try to qualify for the elites. I thought that, it'd be a great idea and a great opportunity. Well, then it was, don't get me wrong. It was fantastic. And it's a cool space, but there's dudes that do that they have way more time than I do to fish.
Yeah.
And now, like that was my first full year with a kid. So it was stressful on the home front. My wife was pulling her dang hair out. And, for the 9 tournaments, man, it's just a long time being away from home when you have a newborn. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll back it back to the NPFL because it's 6 tournaments, not 9. You know what I mean? And that's kind of been the mindset since is she can live with herself by having me gone for 65 days a year versus 90.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me too. I get it. We've got one that's 2.5, one that's 17 months old or something. So we got 2 pretty small ones. Both, one's potty training, but one, both of them is essentially in diapers. It's a tough season of life to have somebody so she has a full-time job too. She loves her career and doesn't want to leave it, even though, like we've talked before, of like her coming to work for the business, when that way we can keep it running that much smoother when I'm out of town. But just for the fact of me being gone for 60, 70 days on its own is enough. And,
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe when they're 5, 6 or whatever, 6 and 7,
Yeah.
maybe push another time to see if we can get to the elites or something like that. But the 6 tournament format right now is pretty decent.
Agreed.
It's nice and spread out. It doesn't impact your business as much. It doesn't impact the home life as much. You still have a chance to win $100,000. You get a way better trophy,
and it's spread out
when you do win one.
It's spread out more between events,
Yep.
so you're not you don't have to be on the road back-to-back weeks, and
it just feels different. I mean, I've grown up going to a lot of the different events, and there's just a different feel with the weigh-ins and being around the anglers. And I mean, I'm not bashing any organization because I think they all have their place. I'm not calling anybody out, but everybody that is fishing in the NPFL, I've never met anybody that wasn't happy to just be there and fishing. You don't get that with every other organization. You go there and guys are miserable. You got guys that are doing it just because their sponsors are telling them that's what they have to do. But everybody's happy to be fishing there. Brad, Paul, Big Al, the rest of the team do such a good job running that organization. And we're coming up on an hour, and we haven't even really talked fishing. So there's definitely going to be a part 2.
We talked a
for
lot
everybody listening, because I do want to talk about your NPFL tournaments, the season, and all of that. But we went down a great road talking about sponsors, and we've tried to bring light to the family. Destin actually came on and talked a big portion about, if you do want to do this, think about the family, because he was away when his wife went into labor. He had to drive part way back and then find somewhere to park his boat and then jump on an airplane, fly home, see his daughter be born, and then get back on an airplane and leave He was in the elite series during that time, so he had to get back to make it to practice, not miss a tournament. Folks don't always take those things into consideration, and I think it's important you highlighted, being away. And when you look at it in days, that was also something nobody's ever done. 95 days away from the home in a year versus 60 something is a huge difference. That's a month. You're gaining a month at home, and with your business. So I appreciate you going into that.
Yep.
We'll talk briefly, since we did bring up that you won the one on Winnebago. What to you? Not that you weren't proud of both of them, but was there a different feeling to win that one on Winnebago than a BFL at home? Just being that it was a different kind of national touring series versus more of like the local stuff that the BFLs tend to focus on, or how was the feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge accomplishment feeling anyway. I've up until that tournament, I mean, I wasn't pre-practice because it was close enough to home, but I'd never been there before, never fished out there. I had no idea what to expect other than what I learned when I showed up, and to win that one. So like, I'll cut to it. I was fishing like the way I like to fish at home. I'm a shallow water angler. I like to fish shallow water cover when I'm largemouth fishing. If I'm fishing for a largemouth bass and I'm fishing deeper than 10 foot, I'm probably lost. And I didn't really have that plan when I went there in pre-practice. I did some research, and early 2000s, that place had some hammer smallmouth in it, and I did this. Now, not picking on anybody in the NPFL, but I was looking at my roster and I went, man, 80% of this field ain't never caught a smallmouth bass in a tournament before, other than like in the Tennessee River. If I can go out and fish these more like a Great Lake style smallmouth, I can get on a pattern, I'm gonna blow this thing out of the water. And I practiced for 2.5 days of pre-practice, and the first day I was out there for like 14 hours and I caught one smallmouth. And on the way back to the boat ramp, because I was beat, and it was end of July or whatever, hot for up here, and I saw this dock that was close to the boat ramp, and I went, man, like latitude, longitude wise, this lines up almost the same as my home. I bet I can go over there with a jig and throw up there and catch at least like a small largemouth, just to say something went okay for my day. And I went over there and I threw up there and caught like a 4-pounder. And I went, oh, well, maybe we'll use that as a little bit of a stepping stone for the rest of the week, and went out the next day, planned on going to the north end of the lake and just graphing and looking for rock piles and fishing for smallmouth. And it poured rain like sideways that day for the first 2 hours. And I stayed like in this little river spot that I launched the boat, and I picked up a spinnerbait and just went through the grass and whatnot and fishing around some, rocky structure along the shoreline. And it wasn't a big bag, but for there it was big. I had like 15 pounds and all largemouth. And I'm literally laughing because I talked to like 9 guys that have already won up in pre-practice. I was there the last week of pre-practice then, and they were like, man, if you can catch 7 pounds a day, you're going to cut a check. And I'm sitting here looking at 15 pounds just fishing the way I like to fish. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm onto something. And I just so happened to see that there was a tournament going on when it did stop raining. I ran in and I watched the weigh-in, because we're allowed to do that. Like, we can't ask information, but like I can watch and see who wins and what wins with. And these were like local teams. There was like 70 boats, and I think 11.5 pounds won. And I went,
oh gosh,
all right, well, I think I'm going to shut up and just not say a word to anybody. And I think I'm doing the right thing. And I went the whole next full day, essentially, that I was out there for pre-practice and fished nothing but like high percentage looking docks that I could find. And everywhere that I got a bite, I just hit a dot. And when I went back for official practice, I went through there with literally no hook on, just a screw lock, like to hitchhike my Strike King Rage Bug with a 3/8 ounce weight. And I was just pitching it around the dock so I wouldn't sore mouth anything. And I went 3 full days without catching a fish, but just went and just dotted every bite. And by doing that, I put like a mental note, like I told my wife or whatever, but like it's pretty quiet about it. I was like, if I can catch 14 pounds a day, I'll win this tournament. And she's like, you think so? I said, I'm going to run it at 14 pounds a day. Like, I'm going to leave my areas every time I catch 14 pounds for the first 2 days. And I weighed like 14.4 the first day, but I had that in the first hour. And I was like in 5th place. And then the second day I had a cameraman, and I told him the story, what I was doing. And I had like 14 and a half in the first hour and a half. And we literally went to the polar opposite side of the lake so I wouldn't burn my fish, and just went and fun fish and practiced to just try to catch a kicker, you know. And I was sitting in second, and I was like 7 ounces behind at the end of the second day. And the third day, I weighed like 14.4, and I won by 4 ounces. And
that
it
was
was
a
just,
3-day tournament.
Mhm.
That's right.
yep. So to win it with doing exactly what I planned, fishing the same baits that I planned, and not really having any hiccups, it was perfect. And the fish, like mostly catching my fish around docks, the way I like to fish here. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better tournament for me.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
you know, I almost had a meltdown. I have a everybody always says this. Now we're on the story, so I'll get like a little bit deep with it. And it's almost sentimental, even to this day. Whenever you win one of these things, because there's so many good guys. Even the first year of the NPFL, there's so many great anglers.
Yeah.
Things got to go your way, and it just has to be just your day or your week, whatever. And Keith Carson, he fishes in the MLF stuff still. He was leading the tournament, and he was like, I've watched the live now since, you know, but like he was fishing up one of the rivers, and he had like this tree that kept reloading. And the first 2 days, he whaled them out of this one tree. Well, the third day, like a local was out there with a chainsaw and cut the tree out of the water.
What? Actually,
Literally.
I kind of remember
Like
this
I
story.
remember
pulled
that
it
now.
out of the water.
Yeah.
And he had other stuff that he caught fish on, but obviously his main piece of structure, getting yanked out of the water, didn't help him any. And another guy I'm great friends with, Bryant Smith, he fishes the Elite Series.
Yep.
He's a buck and bass guy. I've been working with buck and bass since 2020. He just like him, and we chat to this day quite often. And he was like in the top 5, and he had a mega bag the third day, but he brought in 6 fish.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like now, I can't tell you, obviously, not looking at the official scale, if he would have beat me or not. But like him and I both discussed, it was close enough to like make me sweat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so things like that happen. And like, to be honest, I started my day strong, and I hooked, like, I had this little lily pad flat that I was pitching around. I was light flipping. I was throwing 3/8 ounce weight, 17-pound line, and every fish that I caught in this place was like a cookie cutter 3-pounder. And I pulled 3 or 4 out of there every day, and I left it and pulled up there the final day, and I caught one first flip, and it was like the third or fourth flip I hooked one. It was like in one of the clumps, and it was like a 4 or 5 pounder. It was a big game changer for that place. And it had me wrapped up good, but the water was only like 1.5 feet deep, and I'm seesawing with this fish, and I'm like, man, you caught like 15 fish out of this clump in the last 3 days. Get that fish out of there without blowing them out, because you might just really finish your day here. And I played seesaw with that fish long enough, I broke my line. And that was the first fish all week that I lost. And I had like a little bit of a spill there where I went like 3 hours without actually landing one. I lost one, missed them, lost them, and almost spun out. Like, I mean, literally, I was on the verge, and I finally got it back together enough. And I remember I was running like all my plan B stuff, even because I spun out so bad. And I had like something like 12 pounds. And I was running back to the boat ramp, and I literally told the cameraman, I was like, you know what? Second's not bad, I guess. And I was kind of like making peace with it, you know, that I didn't quite land on what I needed. And I only had like 35 minutes to go until I had to be checked in. I had like a 20-minute boat ride, so I was tight on time. I was like, I'll just go fish some docks by the boat ramp and call it good. And I was going north on the lake, and I remember looking over, and I had hummingbird helixes then, and I saw like a dot in the bay, and I was like, what was that from? I like panned over to it as I was running 70, so that's not safe. Don't do that at home. I panned over, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, that's that dock I caught that 4-pounder on in pre-practice. I haven't even been over there. And I was like, I looked at the camera, and I said, hold on, I mean, this is a little bit out of the way, but I think I have time to make one toss. And I ran over to that dock, literally, and I remembered which one it was, and I sat down in like a foot of water, dropped the trolling motor, went right to it, and I pitched my bug underneath there, and on the fall, I watched my line jump, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And I reel down, and I jack this fish, and I see it turn into the water. I'm like, oh God, that's a 4-pounder. You know, that's one I need. And I'm like, do it smart, dude. Do it smart. And I like bring him to the side of the boat, and I was going to reach down and scoop him because we don't use a net. And I saw that I had him kind of stunned. I mean, I jacked him to his mouth was wide open. He wasn't even fighting. And I like reeled down. I swung him in the boat and on my brother's grave, dude. I mean, it was like got him over the side of the boat, and the line broke in the air.
Oh my
Boat.
gosh.
And he fell in the bottom of the boat, and that call right there got me to win.
Dude.
Like
When it's your time, it's your
just-
time.
yeah, and
So
you know things like that go on is just unreal when it's like that type of day. And then I turn around and I mean, this is what 4 years later. I was just at the St. Lawrence and I was late 2 days in a row because my boat wouldn't take gas in the water, and I had to stop twice instead of once. And I was on the winning bags of fish. I had 5 and 6 pounders on beds, and the things that just don't go right sometimes are what kills you.
Yep.
gosh,
you know?
man, that's like I mean, first of all, Ken Duke should write an article about that whole deal. Ken Duke does a great job. If you guys don't know, he's the communications manager, whatever, communications director for the NPFL, but he does a great job. But you know, those things like that, we talk about it all the time. Like they make everything worth it. And it's amazing how you can remember every single detail because 99% of the time things don't go your way. It doesn't matter if you're fishing a local tournament. It seems like you can always win practice, but in a tournament, it doesn't matter if it's a 1 day, a 3 day, a 4 day. 99% of the time, you're not going to. I mean, probably even higher percentage than that. Maybe 101% of the time, you're never going to win. You know, but like when it comes down to something like you just discussed at Winnebago, I mean, man, that stuff is burned into your mind. Like you remember every single minute of that.
Does that fish flying through the air? Is it in slow motion still?
Oh yeah, every time. Like,
So-
I literally left out a part that, I mean, it was funny, but like to talk back about, but like, the whole thing, like, because it's such a big moment, like that whole moment got locked in, right? So like when that fish hit the bottom of the boat, I was running a 721 Phoenix, and I'm 6'3", 260, dude. I'm a big guy, and
This trains
I
are
pile on
rolling.
this- I pile on this fish like to make sure he ain't coming out of the boat, right? And like I grab him, like I have a fistful of his mouth, and I haven't even looked at him, but I'm just like holding on to his lip essentially, and I'm covering him up, and like I literally I melted down. And sorry,
No,
like
you're
I said,
good, brother.
it's a moment, and
You're good, bro.
the cameraman was like, "You good? You good?" And I'm like, not gonna drop an F-bomb, but I did there with the camera right in my face. I was like, "Do I have a effing 4-pounder in my hand right now?" And he said, "Yeah, buddy, you do." I said, "Then we're doing great." You know what I mean? And I jumped up and I did I'm not good at doing it, but I did a big old woo. And there was a party going on like 3 docks ahead, and there was a dude that was pissed drunk on the dock, and he was like, "What'd you do?" And I said, "I just won 50 grand, brother." And he's like, "Hell yeah, come back and party with us." I was like, "You never know, man." But you know, them are the things that I'll never forget that, you know.
Yeah.
Man, I'll tell you what, that's a extremely special moment.
That's a great story.
God, we have so many of those moments too. Those are the ones you don't forget. Those are the ones you tell your kids about and tell your. I mean, most of the time when I tell my wife something like that, she's like, "Yeah, whatever, I don't care," you know. But when I tell other people, they're like, "Man, that's super cool." Dude, I definitely, I think Pete's right.
We gotta do part 2.
We got to do a
two.
part 2. Do you want to do a part 2 and come back on
Absolutely.
and just talk about NPFL exclusive stuff? I just have.
Do you want to do it after the season, or
We can do it after the
like a
season.
season wrap up? Maybe.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
get
well,
Sure.
we hear about all of this year. We talk about your other years and just kind of recap your journey in the NPFL. Because that could be that's gonna be a whole nother hour if we start down that.
Yeah,
train.
we'll do it. So I did have one last question for you, and I'll turn it over to these guys. After the Winnebago tournament, did Keith Carson come to you and said, "Who did you pay to cut my tree down?"
No, you know, and I'm going to give him credit, man. Now, like he won, I think he already won 2 at that point that year. Maybe it was just 1. But I've never been in the top, like that was the first time I had been since, but that was the first time I was ever in the top 10, and they make us line up. And like, I didn't even know we had to do that. I wanted my fish to be alive when I checked them in because it was hot. And I remember pulling the boat out of the water, and Brad came running over to my wife that was like driving me up towards the stage. And he's like, no, get him back in the water. You guys got to wait till like you're last to weigh in besides Keith. And I'm like, oh, great. I have to wait. And I remember getting out in the harbor and like power pulling down. And I was on pins and needles. And Keith pulled up next to me and he was like putting his stuff away. And I was like, well, if he's putting his stuff away, I might as well do the same. So I started doing that. And I picked up my power poles and I trolled over to him and I was like, all right, dude, I can't stand it anymore. I don't know if I'm allowed to even ask you this, but you got to tell me, did you catch him today? And he looked at me and kind of smiled and was like, did you? And I took a breath and I was like, well, I don't know if I should say this. And I was like, I probably have 14 again. And he was like, I think you won then. And I went, you do? And he's like, yeah, man, I only got 4. And I went, and now like, then it like really set in. I was like, holy God, there's actually a chance here. You know what I mean? Now, Brandon Perkins, who won, I think he's won 3 of them, made it super interesting. If you guys ever want to really watch a crazy weigh-in, turn that one on the YouTube one time. But he was like in 10th or 11th place, and he was quite a ways out of it. And he went out in the wind on the last day and caught like 18 pounds of smallmouth.
Mm.
And I beat him by like 4 ounces. And like we made a joke about it. Like Big Al's always a big storyteller or whatever on the stage. And I'm doing the math, man. I'm looking at it and I'm like, I ain't got him by much, but I got him. I mean, it's going to be like 2 ounces. And, you know, Al was like, I think that Brandon just wants to talk to you about this. And Brandon was like, I don't care about the money. I just want the shield. And I was like, get me up on stage. I'm going to win this thing. And sure enough, it happened. And hi, baby.
What's up?
Yeah.
We got another special guest here.
Yeah, this is my
Hi.
little girl.
Hi.
Say hi. And this is my daddy's girl right here. So she'll be the fisherwoman here, chinning up. Nope, you can't have that. That's daddy's water.
Everyone loves St. Julian Winery.
Yeah.
That's some daddy juice.
I mean, Trey grew up there, so
Hey. My name is Trey, and I am not an alcoholic. But no, that's super awesome, man. The Big Al makes things very interesting too.
he does a great job.
So real quick before we
There's
close
always
this
another.
out,
He said the last question. There's always another one.
no, I was going to turn it over to you guys. Do you guys got anything for Buck?
I want to save mine for part 2.
Okay, well, Ben's going to save his for part 2.
Okay.
Where can everybody go to find Buck Mallory? And we're going to do this on the second one. Where can everyone?
I didn't even get an option.
Oh,
if
well,
I had another.
Did you have another question?
I did. I
Okay.
wanted that
Okay.
sort of
Okay.
because I can't remember. Was that the one when Keith was catching them like yo-yo in the chatterbait in that tree?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember. I was trying to spark my memory because I remember the tree getting cut down and all that. But
Yep.
no, I don't have anything else. So I'm going to cut Trey off because he's
Yep,
talking
do
this
it.
entire episode like he always does. But
Told you.
we're coming back. He asked all the questions we would normally ask, and we just let him talk because his wife doesn't let him talk very much. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm trying to
Love
get
you,
Ken
Brandon.
Duke. I'm trying to
Anyway,
Ken Duke hire me.
anyway, we want to give you a chance to officially, shout out all those that make this possible. Obviously, you said you self-fund a big portion of it, but we still can't do it without those companies that do help us out, whether it's through discounts or a little bit of money. So just go ahead and shout them out.
Yeah, man, I got to think. I mean, I've been with Buck and Bass. They're the outdoor apparel company, and T-shirts and whatever, too. We do a whole lot of stuff. I've been with them since, like, 2020. And you're going to hear Dad as a bunch in the back.
No, you're
I
good.
apologize. So them, I mean, I got to deal with Power Pole. I mean, they've been great to me for 5 years now. I work with Daiwa and Powerhouse Lithium Batteries. They do a big amount for me, and obviously you guys love the St. Julian Winery stuff. I do too. The huge shout out to them. If it wasn't for Apollo, I wouldn't know what I would be doing this year except for buying more of that black and blueberry stuff,
That's right.
And, so I'm really appreciative of them, and anybody else that lets me get on like you guys, your podcast and this. I mean, it's going to go a long ways. I mean, this is just it's a big family ordeal here, and all we want to do is just keep on keeping on and making it. So I appreciate you guys having me on and sharing my story with all the people at home, and hopefully we can have just as entertaining of an episode too when we come back to it.
Yeah. Oh, we will
Absolutely.
for sure. Where can they follow you to follow along on your journey and on your socials?
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I'm not great at any of them, but I do my best. But I think my this is gonna be funny. So my no, not right now, baby. Hold on, Daddy, will help you in a minute. Kid's a little terrorist. So my Facebook is Buck Mallory Bass LLC, and my Instagram is at Buck Mallory _fishing. And I think my TikTok's the same, if I'm not mistaken. That's sad that I don't know it offhand, but
No,
That's all
yeah,
right.
and I'll link them
I do
down
post
below.
a bunch. I do post a decent amount. I've got Major Bass Media that does a lot of my videography and stuff when I'm on the site. So like we have good high quality stuff when I'm at the tournaments, which is great. So that goes a long ways. And yeah, I got to shout out to them too for helping me out for that, because it's great to have good content, because that's not my forte. I'm way better than I am editing video.
Well, we hear
I
that.
hear that.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Buck, all the way from Mattawan, Michigan. Home for me, right next door. Can't wait for part 2. And glad we got to get introduced to your lovely daughter there, and tell the family we appreciate stealing some time from you. So Buck Mallory, everyone, catch him on the next episode here with the OneCast. He's a family man, business owner, and professional angler, and he's somebody that helps us continue growing a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time. Thank you, Buck.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.